If you're shopping for a luxury EV, you have plenty of choices, but few of these vehicles offer everything that the 2023 Genesis Electrified GV70 does. This is an extremely well-rounded SUV, even if it does have one not insignificant weakness. Before getting to the finer points of this battery-powered SUV, we have to cover the almighty specs. The electrified GV70 has a pair of 160 kilowatt electric motors, one at each axle, and aside from standard all-wheel drive, these little dynamos provide 429 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. But that is not all. This vehicle also has a boost mode that delivers an extra 54 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque for a total of 483 and 516 respectively. You just push a button on the steering wheel and you get an extra shot of oomph for up to 10 seconds. Storing energy is a 77.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that is mounted underneath the floor. But side note, for once I would love to see an EV with the battery mounted in the roof so it's super top heavy. I mean, how fun would that be? You throw it into a corner and it just immediately tips over. But I digress. Anyway, this Genesis has an EPA estimated range of 236 miles, which isn't really all that great. Normally here at EV Pulse we like to see 300 miles of range, but I guess 236 isn't terrible for a high-performance luxury SUV with relatively large wheels. As for charging performance, at 50 kilowatts, this SUV can go from 10 to 80% in 73 minutes. But if you hook to a charger that puts out more than 250 kilowatts, the electrified GV70 can do the same deed in as little as 18 minutes, just like the E-GMP cars. That is, the EV6, Ioniq 5, and GV60. And hey, if you've only got 236 miles of range, you'd better charge quickly, and this Genesis certainly does. Making long-distance drives just a little easier, customers also get free 30-minute charging sessions for 3 years from Electrify America. Now let's talk design, then we'll hop inside and explore this vehicle's lovely interior. But first things first, the electrified GV70 looks almost identical to the conventional model, and that is not a bad thing. This is a very handsome and well-proportioned SUV, and overall I find the design clean and modern, but not over the top. Now obviously there are a few things that separate these vehicles, and the most obvious one is right up front because they have filled in the grille. Obviously aerodynamics are very important with EVs, so to improve them, they've blocked off this whole area. Very nice. Although, just like on the electrified G80 sedan, they have incorporated the charge port right up front where it's easy to get. You just push the door and pop it open just like that. Although there is one thing that I very much dislike up here, these plastic block-offs for the ports. Very cheap feeling and very floppy. These really do not belong on a luxury vehicle, but you can't win them all. Anyway, flanking the grille, we have standard LED headlamps that incorporate the Genesis brand's signature two-line motif. They look pretty sharp. Moving along the side, standard 20-inch wheels, neither too big nor too small. I think they are just about right. Now, the electrified GV70 is treated to a special paint finish, so it should last a long time and look great. But I will caution you, the color palette for this vehicle is limited, it is conservative, and it is expensive. Only 3 gloss hues are available, and you've got to pay $575 for any one of those, and then there's one matte gray that's available for $1,500. The conventional GV70 has a much more adventurous color palette. I wish we saw that on this vehicle, although I think they're trying to keep complexity to a minimum with the electrified version here. Moving to the rear, we can see that two-line motif is echoed in the tail lamps, where we have a very clean and elegant back end. And there is one feature here, though, that I absolutely love. They have put the button for the power hatch right up here by the windshield wiper, where it's easy to hit and see. This is absolutely brilliant, although I'll be honest, I'm forever fumbling around down here until I remember, oh yeah, they actually put it in a much better spot. And then of course we have one other major change compared to the conventional GV70, and that is the rear bumper, because there are no exhaust outlets since there's no engine in this vehicle. But with that, let's hop inside and check out the cabin. I can talk paint colors and wheel sizes until I'm blue in the face, but none of that captures the magic, the feel of the electrified GV70. This is just such a nice vehicle, and the interior is absolutely stunning. It is stylish and subtle, advanced yet still approachable and welcoming. This cabin is beautifully designed. There's a subtle oval theme. We see it on the dashboard, the center console, and of course the door panels. Adds a very soft touch. And of course the build quality, near as I can tell, it's perfect. All of the trim is rock solid. The materials are beautiful. The stitching, it's as straight as a laser beam. And then of course all of the controls feel fantastic. We also have a 14-way power adjustable driver's seat and a 12-way passenger chair right here. These are both heated and ventilated, which is always good news. And I'll say these are quite comfortable, though they are not the best seats my cheeks have ever kissed. This vehicle also has the $6,800 Prestige package, which gets you a whole bunch of lovely amenities. Now, leather trim is standard in the electrified GV70, but this options group upgrades that to buttery soft Napa leather. It also gets you a microfiber headliner and wrapped pillars. There's a leatherette upper portion here on the dashboard. You get a head-up display, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster that has a nifty 3D effect to it. Now, that's not something I really like, though it is an interesting parlor trick because it works without any glasses. Beyond that, the Prestige package gets you a heated steering wheel and heated rear seats. We also have a standard 14.5-inch screen here on the dashboard, one with a very wide aspect ratio, unusually wide, but that really helps it fit in with the overall design of the cabin. Now, beyond that, there's a control knob here on the center console that makes it very easy to run through the various menus and everything else in the infotainment system. However, this panel is touch-enabled, so you can use your fingers, although it is a bit of a reach while driving, so you're probably better off sticking with the knob. Beyond that, this system supports both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though neither of those smartphone mirroring systems can connect wirelessly, so make sure to bring a cable. Additionally, we have 2 USB ports up front and 2 others servicing customers in the economy class cabin. That is the back seat. Overall, I love the electrified GV70's cabin. It is beautifully built, though I do have a couple minor complaints. One is the list of color options. There are only 2. You get black or you get white. White is too bright in my opinion, and it's going to look dingy pretty quickly. So a little more color would be nice in this vehicle. Beyond that, we have 2 separate dials on the center console here, one for the infotainment system, another for the electronic gear selector, and I'm always grabbing the wrong one. The infotainment dial works well, but maybe they should go with a push-button shifter instead. And then, of course, finally, the climate controls are a little bit unusual. They have a touch screen, they have physical knobs, and then they have touch-sensitive buttons. It's all a bit weird, and they should really just pick one interface and go with that. The electrified GV70 is not the most explosively quick battery-powered vehicle I've ever driven, but this thing is still a very strong performer with more than enough acceleration for basically any driving situation. As I mentioned, with boost mode engaged, you get 483 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, and those increases are immediately obvious. They make this vehicle much more potent, and of course the throttle response is significantly quicker, almost to the point where it feels jumpy. Now, I suggest you use boost mode judiciously. You don't want to get in trouble with the law, and I don't suggest you use it on your subdivision side street because the HOA president won't like that. Just like when you paint your shutters 2 shades of gray different from what they specify. Helping you fine-tune the feel, there are several driving modes. There's Eco, Comfort, Sport, and then a custom setting that allows you to adjust several vehicle parameters. For normal use, Comfort is my favorite, though of course Sport does liven things up a little bit at the expense of range. I don't really recommend Eco. It really dulls the GV70's responses. And basically all of these settings work as advertised, so it's no surprise. But what is surprising is how smooth this SUV is. I mean, the GV70 looks pretty sporty, but the ride is actually creamier than warm butter. Maybe not quite that soft, but this is a very smooth vehicle. And you really hear the tires hitting bumps more than you feel the actual impacts. Now, the trade-off for that is the body does teeter-totter ever so slightly over bumps or while you're braking or accelerating. And I think stiffer dampers would help level things out, but I would not want those if it degraded the ride quality, because I love the smoothness and the quietness of this vehicle. And of course, you do get standard active noise cancellation, which keeps this interior about as quiet as a bunker. You also get a standard leather-wrapped steering wheel that feels fantastic in your hands, super soft leather, and it's got a nice meaty grip to it. I like that a lot. Now, as for handling in corners, this vehicle is reassuring, and I would describe it as relaxed, though there is a touch of body roll, because again, this is a fairly softly sprung SUV. A sports car, it most certainly is not, and neither are any of the GV70's rivals. This thing competes with other luxury electric utility vehicles like the new Cadillac Lyriq, there's the Lexus RZ 450e, the Audi Q8 E-Tron, and then probably the Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV as well. Each of these competitors offers more range, except for the Lexus, which tops out at a pitiable 220 miles, though I've got to say, the all-wheel drive Lyriq looks pretty good in this group. The electrified GV70's 236 miles of range is not the best, but the vehicle's pricing is hard to beat. As you'll see in just a second, the top-shelf Prestige trim finishes where some of these SUVs start. First, though, let's review some of the highs and lows. You'll love the electrified GV70's strong performance, smooth and quiet ride, stunning interior, handsome looks, and top-notch tech. Sure, there are a few downsides, but they're all minor, except for one. The dials on the center console can be annoying, and then the color choices, availability, and range are all quite limited. 236 miles on a charge is not uncompetitive, but more sure would be nice. So, what does the 2023 Genesis Electrified GV70 cost? Well, the base price is just about $68,000, including destination fees, which is neither cheap nor completely outrageous. But as it sits, this higher-end example checks out for $74,350 with two items adding to the bottom line. There's $6,800 for the Prestige package, and then of course $575 for the paint job, which I'm assuming you have to pay for because they ain't gonna sell you one in primer. But I mean, I guess you could ask. The electrified GV70 delivers performance, emotion, comfort, luxury, and good taste all in one smartly sized and versatile package. In short, this is a phenomenal EV. Built in Montgomery, Alabama of all places, this SUV will only be available in limited quantities at select Genesis retailers in about 23 states. So if you want to get your hands on an electrified GV70, it might take some work to find one, but trust me, it's worth the effort. Next up, watch my full review of the Genesis GV60 battery-powered SUV. It's a little bit smaller, but way funkier than the GV70, so click over here to check that out next.